welcome to this week's Dux-Soup webinar. My name's Adam Osman. I'm the Head of Marketing at Dux-Soup. With me today is my good friend and colleague, Giles Garnett, our Head of Professional Services. Hopefully what we're going to do over the next 45 minutes to an hour is excite you about the potential for using automation technology to generate leads for your business. So just before we jump into the main content, just run through a couple of very brief housekeeping points. We always get asked this before, during and after the webinar: is this webinar being recorded? And the answer is yes. An on-demand replay will be available, and that will come out automatically to you via email. Usually takes a little bit of time for the system to process it all. So if you want to go back and look at any of the detail again, that is available via the on-demand replay. If you have a moment, could you please just pop into the question box? So the question box should be on the right-hand side of the screen, or might, depending on how your console is configured, might be near the bottom. Just put in there where you're from and perhaps what your biggest lead generation challenges are. And hopefully we'll be able to use the time over the next 45 minutes to an hour to address those challenges and questions. Other things, whilst we're presenting to you, you can't actually talk to us, but what you can do is use that question box to ask any specific questions. Anything we can answer via the chat facility, we will do that during the webinar, and everything else I'll save up and put Giles on the spot at the end of the webinar. So on your screen in front of you, you will see something called a resource window, which has links to lots of useful content and articles. And periodically during this presentation, Giles might say, there's a really good article about messaging, or limits on how much messaging you can send out. And generally speaking, those links and access to our blog articles explaining these issues will be in the resources section. And that section remains live even during the on-demand replay. So you don't need to worry about downloading anything specific now. You can always come back to the webinar content and access them from there at any time. There's also some buttons and some options. So if you want to directly start your free trial, or if you want to book a spot on our next webinar, which is going to be super, super cool, by the way, and I'll tell you a bit more about that at the end of this session. And you'll also find links to our booster session. So this is an opportunity for people who want a bit more one-to-one direct support with particular issues relating to Dux-Soup or LinkedIn automation. You can book that there. So what are we going to cover today? So what we really want to do is just give you a very brief overview of what do we mean by LinkedIn automation, why you should be excited about it when it comes to lead generation. Just to make sure everyone really understands why LinkedIn, why should we be using LinkedIn to generate leads. And then we'll look at how LinkedIn automation actually works in a practical sense. Giles has got some terrific examples. He's got a wealth of experience in setting up, managing, monitoring, improving, tweaking campaigns. So there's a ton of really invaluable advice that he can bring. We'll also, or Giles rather, will be doing a demo of the products. You can see in a live sense exactly how the product works and how it relates to what we're talking about in terms of generating leads on LinkedIn. And we've got plenty of time at the end for your specific questions. So if there's something you think, but how would this work for my business? Or can you explain that again? Just put that in the question or Q&A box, and we'll cover those at the end. So what do we mean by LinkedIn automation? I think everyone's got a slightly different answer to that question. But for me, it's all about taking care of the stuff that you would manually do if you were prospecting on LinkedIn on a one-to-one basis. So from me to Giles, or from me to a member of my team, or from me to anyone else on LinkedIn. Typically, you start with sending a connection request, and then once somebody has accepted that, you will start sending them one or more messages. And fundamentally, automating that stuff is what we're talking about here, because that stuff can be quite time consuming. But what is the goal? One of our customers said to me, I love Dux-Soup and LinkedIn automation because it really helps me to get into interesting conversations with relevant people. And that's what it's all about. This is not an all-in-one AI tool that's going to do your selling for you. It's going to start getting you into conversations with people who are in your once you set up your campaigns, because there is a little bit of time and effort that you have to put in yourself, as Giles will explain, to get your campaign set up. But once they are set up, generally speaking, they will run on autopilot for you. So with automation technology, it gives you scalability, this ability to do more, but actually keep track of your campaigns as well. And Giles will show you that within the product, how we use our dashboards to really keep an eye on our campaigns and to see where things need to be tweaked or not. I want to be really, really clear. This LinkedIn automation is not a way for you to spam your audience more effectively. It's all about tailoring the message to a target market. I think that the days of sending hundreds or thousands of LinkedIn messages are long gone. LinkedIn as a platform works best when people are very precise and targeted about what they do. So we only ever advocate within the product safe and sensible use of LinkedIn. So stuff that's going to stay within LinkedIn's limits. Hopefully it all makes sense. So if you haven't used the LinkedIn platform a huge amount, why should you be using LinkedIn and automating the stuff? It's mostly because your decision makers are there. The platform has more than 1 billion users at last count. Something like 40% of them, nearly 50%, log in on a regular basis. So this is an engaged audience. And fundamentally, almost every single market, industry and sector, your decision makers are going to be on LinkedIn. In terms of coverage, I won't read through all the figures from the graphic, but 233 million people in North America alone, 257 million in Europe, 41 million in the UK, which is where I'm based. So by and large, the people you want to target are going to be on LinkedIn. So when it comes to LinkedIn, the way I like to think of it is there's 4 key components. The first is who you're targeting, and Giles will talk about that. The second is what you say to them. Now, there's no substitute for having good quality, robust messaging that ties in with your brand, that addresses pain points, but fundamentally looks to get people into a conversation. So LinkedIn automation, all that does, it gives you a very repeatable, predictable and scalable activity to take that message to your audience on LinkedIn. And what do you get out the back end of that? If you set it up properly, you should get the outcomes that you're looking to drive. So what business outcomes are we talking here? It could be demo requests, it could be leads, it could be brochure downloads, it could be brand awareness. And just a few simple use cases that I've pulled from our website. So Promonio set up one LinkedIn campaign, and over the space of 3 months, it generated over £150,000 of closed revenue. So that's from one campaign. We have an agency in the US, Amt, who set up nearly 350 appointments with CISOs in 3 months. So if you're not familiar with the acronym CISO, it stands for Chief Information Security Officer. And I know from personal experience from trying to target that audience, they are not easy to reach and they don't always have the time to engage with you. But Amt were able to do it using LinkedIn to do it very successfully. And the third example is quite a funky little company called preopcop.com. So they've integrated LinkedIn automation into their MarTech stack. They combine it with ChatGPT in a really quite innovative way. They've built a huge database of contacts, which they can then mine and create campaigns for. And they're getting something like a 96% acceptance rate because their campaigns are so targeted. But all of these use cases are documented on our website. The one I don't have on here actually is my favorite one, which is a company called HG Insights, where one person was using 9 LinkedIn profiles. We had his colleagues and his boss all running through our automation platform. And in the space of 2 years, he generated leads that went on to close for more than $1.5 million. Now, they have quite a high ticket price. I'm not saying everyone on this call is going to be able to achieve results like that. But just to recap, that was one person using automation to control 9 profiles. And they generated literally over $1 million in closed. And I'll hand over to Giles now to tell you a little bit more and then to bring it back into the text so you can see how it all works.
Awesome. Thank you, Adam. Hello to everybody. My name's Giles. I'm Head of Professional Services here at Dux-Soup. Great to see a few familiar names on the call today. Really nice to see some people there. But yeah, let's crack on with sort of this introduction into the Dux-Soup Turbo product and how you can get the most out of it, especially during that first 2-week free trial that's available to everybody who installs Dux-Soup for the first time. So let's start from the beginning. What is Dux-Soup? For anybody who's not looked at it so far or not looked at it yet, it's a Chrome extension. It works within the Chrome browser or a Chrome compatible browser. It helps you to mimic human behavior on the LinkedIn platform. And it runs against any of the normal LinkedIn platforms that you see. That's the regular free version, the Sales Navigator version, and indeed the Recruiter version. Essentially, what you do with Dux-Soup is you go and carry out a search in LinkedIn or build a list, as we call them. And then you decide on what you want Dux-Soup to do, and then you run those actions against that list. And that's really it. You know, it's as simple as that. It gets a little bit more nuanced, of course, and we'll peel back the layers of that during the course of this call. Remember, from keeping your LinkedIn account safe point of view, Dux-Soup mimics human behavior. So it looks to LinkedIn like it's a person clicking on the links, etc., etc. And we have got some really valuable resources available. There's a LinkedIn safety link within the resource section of the webinar feature here. Have a read of that. It explains everything that we've learned from running Dux-Soup over the last 10 and a half years now about how LinkedIn's algorithm behaves to your actions on their platform. Essentially, and this is constantly changing, and that's why we're updating our documentation all the time. Essentially, LinkedIn rewards good behavior. So if you're being a very nice, good LinkedIn citizen, you will be able to do more over the longer term. If you are abusing the platform and you're spamming people, as Adam mentioned earlier, then you will find you'll get yourself into trouble. So all of these things we need to take into consideration, especially if we're looking to use any sort of automation tool. So some LinkedIn basics. Let's start with this then. So every single action that you perform on LinkedIn creates a notification to somebody somewhere. So even if you just go in and visit, I don't know, 15, 20, 50 profiles, that's going to create a bunch of notifications. Any notification is going to include a little bit about your profile. And you can see an example there at the top screen. So having a well-presented profile page is the easiest win you will ever come across on LinkedIn. If you've got some relevant information to your audience, you've got something that's appropriate, it's professional, etc., 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 every action you take on LinkedIn is going to trigger notifications. People will see your profile and they might be engaged enough to click on it and then maybe even connect with you. The worst thing that can happen, of course, is that they will ignore you, but hey, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Your profile page is your advert to the world, so be aware of that. Don't be afraid also to sometimes update your headline. You know, you've got that little tagline underneath, and a lot of people put, general manager or, whatever it might be, whatever your job title is. Don't be afraid to think about putting in, a description about what you do, as well as your actual job title, maybe, depending on what you're trying to do. Some people who are in maybe the recruitment business, or you're recruiting for a specific role within your organization, you might put that in your tagline. You visit some profiles, people see that, and then they will react accordingly. One of the things to also remember, be active on LinkedIn. Don't just leave an automation tool like Dux-Soup to just run and run and run. Do other things as well. Comment, share, engage. You can even auto-like now with Dux-Soup as well. So be aware that this is all part of the package of making sure you are, as I said earlier, and I should probably copyright it, shouldn't I? Yeah. Being a good LinkedIn citizen. So that's some of the basics there around LinkedIn and why you might look to automate, why you want to make sure that you are following these appropriately. So why Dux-Soup Turbo? As you may or may not be aware, Dux-Soup is 3 paid versions. We've got a Pro version, a Turbo version, and a Cloud version. But Dux-Soup Turbo is the version that we provide as a free trial to any new installation, whether you're using, whenever you're installing Dux-Soup against a new Chrome profile, you will get 2 weeks free. It's a fully automated outreach tool. You can integrate with literally thousands of other platforms. You can build campaigns, and you can automate all of that outreach and then just basically deal with the responses as they come in, etc., etc. So what we're going to do, we're going to start with what campaigns are. What are campaigns? How can we build campaigns? We're going to walk through campaign creation, how we can do that from within the Dux Dash. We'll talk about campaign actions, and then also we'll just touch upon team campaigns as well. I'm going to share my screen, and as always with these webinars, it's a little bit of a mix of slides and demo. So please excuse me while I jump backwards and forwards. And now I've got to try and remember how I share my screen on this platform. So hopefully in a second, if I press that button there, let's go to, let's make sure I get the correct screen. With me one moment, and we'll share that one. Fingers crossed, that should come across loud and clear, and you can hopefully see the Dux-Soup homepage. That's the plan anyway. Adam, if you can't see it, let me know. So yeah, we've got Dux-Soup here on our home screen. So to make the most of our, or to get our free trial going, of course, we want to go and install Dux-Soup. So we would do that by going to the Chrome Web Store, installing Dux-Soup for LinkedIn automation, and installing it against our chosen Google Chrome account. Now, the authentication for Dux-Soup always happens through a Google Chrome account. Be aware of that. And then whichever Chrome account you're in, then whatever LinkedIn account you're logged into is the LinkedIn account that Dux-Soup will automate your actions against. And as you can see here, I've got my little extension icon. I have chosen to pin it here so it's actually visible. And we can see here that I have Dux-Soup Turbo. This is what you will get for 2 weeks when you first install Dux-Soup. And this is how it will look. So we have installed our Dux-Soup Turbo trial. And now we want to go and explore and understand, okay, how can we build a campaign? So we're going to click on our extension icon. We are going to go down to the Dux Dash. And here in the Dux Dash, this is where we can do all of our campaign creation and management. On the left-hand side, we have a series of menu items, which are fairly self-explanatory. And there's should mention that as well. There's a getting started with Dux-Soup Turbo guide amongst the resources, a great step-by-step guide as to how to get up and running and make the most of the 2 weeks. My advice would be to read that article before you install it. So many people I speak to, they get great, they're enthusiastic, a new tool, let's try it. They install it, and then they start doing their research. Read the article first, then install Dux-Soup, and you can literally hit the ground running and make the most of that free trial. So we're in our Dux Dash here. Let's go down to, we're going to start here at the drip campaigns. And actually, when you first install this, you get a little pop-up and a guide as to how to make the most of all of these different features. But we don't need to do that now. We're just going to walk through it here. I'm going to click drip campaigns. And what we can see here is I can build as many campaigns as I like. I can have all sorts of different ways of reaching out to people depending upon what I'm doing. Now, I've got loads of different ones here, and what we'll just do very briefly, just to give you a flavor, and then we'll show you an actual campaign, is how easy it can be to build a campaign. I'm going to press the new campaign button here. We can put in here a name of our campaign. So we'll just call this, I don't know, let's call it imaginatively webinar demo. There we go. We can now choose where Dux-Soup performs its actions. And this will, of course, depend upon what sort of a LinkedIn account you have. And also what actions you're putting in your campaign. Now, I would say probably 90% of people run their LinkedIn campaigns in regular LinkedIn, because most people are doing most of their actions there as well. Once we've done this, actually, I'm going to call this webinar. I've obviously got one called webinar demo already because it came up with a little error there. So we're going to call it webinar demo too. We then got some other actions here available, some options. Now, if I've got a team account, and we can touch on that later, maybe under the Q&A, I would be able to enable a team campaign option here, and that would become shareable across my entire team of accounts. I don't have a team campaign here. I don't have a team account here, but there's some other options. So I can reject profiles from other campaigns, making sure I'm not accidentally overlapping. I can tag profiles with an ID that gives me an extra level of traceability as to what I'm doing. We have something called Dux-Soup tags within the product, which gives us that visibility as to who's gone into what campaign. But there's lots of ways of being able to analyze that data as well, and also make the use of it through our integration. We also have the opportunity to reject connected profiles. So if somebody's already connected to us, we could say, yep, we don't want them to go in that campaign. So that's another option that we have here. We have a free text box here that we can put our description of our campaign in here, and then we can build our sequence. Now, by default, it looks like this, and we've got all sorts of different options that we can add into our campaign here. And rather than going through and building one manually, whilst you all look at me and type as I try to type awkwardly, I'm going to actually save that one as it is. Oh no, I need to put some text in there. There we are. And now I'm going to show you one that here's one I prepared earlier. So I've got here one called Getting Started Webinar Growth Hackers. So we can see here what I've done, given my campaign the title. I'm running it in regular LinkedIn. I'm not wanting to overlap with existing campaigns, and I don't want any first degree connections in there. Now, I've built a campaign like this. I'm running a free LinkedIn account at the moment, and what I've got here is I've then got a blank connection request. We cover this in some of our documentation as well, but you may or may not be aware, if you're running free LinkedIn, you will be limited as to how many messages with connection requests you can send. So if I wanted to, I could go in here and I could say, hi, _FN_. We've got this as a marker, a placeholder that we can use to personalize our message. I could go in here and put a message in here and include that in my connection request. Now, with a free LinkedIn account, I will very quickly hit the buffers and I won't be able to send many. You're usually limited to around 5 per month. However, what I do also know is if those 5 people accept, around 24 to 48 hours later, that number gets reset. So if you want to be really slow about this and do it very, very gradually, you can, of course, include that with a free LinkedIn account. Now, if you've got any paid version of LinkedIn, any premium LinkedIn account, you could put a message in here. You're restricted, of course, to 300 characters. That's the normal connection request message. But in this case, I'm just leaving this blank for now. Now, for those with the luxury of maybe Sales Navigator or Recruiter, you can also, of course, include in-mails in your campaigns. Perfectly acceptable, very normal thing to do. Just gives you an extra way of being able to send longer messages to people. Now, the way Dux-Soup works, if I enroll a prospect into this campaign, first thing Dux-Soup is going to do, it's going to like a post. It's going to like the most recent post that that person has put on LinkedIn. If there's no post to like, it'll skip past that and queue up whatever's next. But essentially, once this step is complete, it will then queue up my connection request to go a couple of days later. Once that connection request is out there, then Dux-Soup is listening for people who accept. And as and when somebody accepts, it will then queue up whatever I've got next. In this case, I've got a very polite, nice, civilized follow-up message. Thanks for accepting my connection, my request _FN_, first name. Just wondering how long you had an interest in growth hacking. Just a very easy, simple opener. As Adam said earlier here, what we're trying to do is start a conversation. A lot of people think, I've got an automation tool. I've got a new connection. I need to send them this information. I need to send them that information. I need to bombard them with information and data, et cetera, et cetera. Actually, you don't need to. What you need to think about is constructing well thought out conversation openers. All you're trying to do is stimulate that opening. It's an opening gambit, if you like. If you think about when you go to a meeting or to a conference or whatever it may be, and you meet people and you don't walk in and sort of suddenly explain things and 4-paragraph explanation as to what you do. You normally say, hey, where are you from? What do you do? Why are you here? You try and engage people and get information out of people. And that's what we're trying to automate here. So when somebody accepts, Dux-Soup picks up the acceptance, queues up my next message. Fantastic. Once this message has gone, Dux-Soup then queues up the next step. And in this case, I'm just visiting it a couple of days later. Again, might trigger a notification to them, might not. Doesn't really matter anyway. But what I'm trying to do here is just explain your different options that you've got here. We have got some brilliant templates examples on our website. Have a dive into the resources section again. There are some absolute gold dust in there from campaigns that are tried, trusted, and proven. All sorts of different options. What you have to remember is whatever I tell you here will work maybe for me. Where you're based, maybe geographically, maybe culturally, maybe within whatever industry you're working, it may be somewhat different. And I can't second guess what it works for everybody. What I've got here now, though, I've got my follow-up one going, then I've got another visit, and then I've got another follow-up. Hey, we connected a couple of weeks back, and here's another little bit more of a question, just trying to expand a little bit more. Now, we can put more and more steps into our campaign. We can put up to 12 steps into our campaign. And the way Dux-Soup works, it's listening not only for people who accept our connection requests, it's also listening for people who respond. So just by way of an example here, if somebody answers this question here, the campaign pauses. Because if they answer this question here, then I actually probably don't want them to get this message here, because I've probably then got into a direct manual conversation with them. My opening Gambit conversation opener has worked, and I'm now engaging with them directly. So the way Dux-Soup works, if they answer, campaign pauses, and then it's up to you what happens next. So this is just a very, very simple example here with a number of different messages spread out over a long period of time. But the idea here is to just give you a flavor as to what is possible. So we have our campaign here built. What do we want to do now? Actually, what we want to do is put people into the campaign, or as we say, as we call it, enroll people into a campaign. And the way we can do that from what we call LinkedIn lists. And again, there's a brilliant resource from our webinars page, from our blog post pages, called about LinkedIn lists and how to use them. And how you construct your lists and find your prospects is very much up to you, of course, but there's loads of different ways of doing it. The most simple, basic, and hopefully intuitive way is to go and carry out some sort of a search in LinkedIn. So what I've done here is I've done a very quick search for growth and hacker. I've looked for second-degree connections, and I'm looking within the UK. So what I've got here is hopefully a list of people who I might want to engage with. Now, there's also lots of different ways of building searches, and there's a search and filtering article as well in the resources, so make use of that. Explains how you can make the most of all the different filtering options, the Boolean search terms, etc., etc. So have a play around with that. The better your list is, the better quality your list is, the more success you're going to have. So we've got our campaign built. We've now gone to LinkedIn and we've built a list. We could do this in Sales Navigator. We can do it in LinkedIn Recruiter. That's the other one. And there's loads of lists we can use, which are explained in that article. But what we're basically looking to do now is we are waiting for our little extension icon to turn green, and mine's already turned green. And now we can simply enroll people into our campaign. If I now press enroll, what we should get pop up in a second. That's typical. What I might need to do is reload the page, because I think I loaded this one a while ago. We'll just wait for this to. This is all live, people, so please bear with us. What we should be able to do now is we should be able to press enroll, and we should get a little pop up here. I'm expecting that to take a few seconds, because I think the webinar presenting platform that we're on at the moment takes a little bit longer. While that's doing that, actually. Oh, there we go. We've got the little pop-up. Dux-Soup at your service. Now I can press the enroll button, and we'll get the pop-up up here. There we go. We can now select whichever campaign we want. So these are all my different campaigns, of course. Getting started, webinar growth hackers. Right. How many people do we want to put into our campaign? Right. We can put as many as we like. Well, we can put as many as are on our list. Now, in regular LinkedIn, a maximum search results shows 1,000 people. In Sales Navigator, it's 2,500, and I don't know what it is in Recruiter, so maybe I ought to find out. Now, whatever number I put in here, so maybe I put 150 in here and now press OK. Dux-Soup will now take the first 150 people on my list who have not gone into the campaign before, and it will start to enroll those people into the campaign. So let's do it. Let's go for it. I've just pressed the OK button. Dux-Soup is now going to reload the page and start taking the data that it sees here on the screen, scrolling through it and enrolling people into my campaign, and start queuing up those actions that I have defined, that I have defined within my campaign. As I say, I think the webinar platform will slow this down a little bit. It appears to be quite resource hungry, but there we go. We'll get there in a minute. That's the joy of doing things live, isn't it, Adam, mate? Now, while that's doing that, I actually ought to show you. I'm going to actually just very briefly stop sharing my screen. Let's do it. We're going to see now. It's enrolling people now. It's ignoring a couple because they're in other campaigns, and we can see there that it's going through this list and starting to process that list. While that's doing that, I'm just going to stop sharing a second and show you the slide that I've got here. Right, we're back onto the slides now. So Dux-Soup enrolling. So this is what we're doing. We're finding our prospects in LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, or Recruiter. It's using whatever list that Dux-Soup is recognizing, and we can now enroll people into our campaign. We can do it individually. We can go down line by line and choose who goes in there. And we can also enroll if we have our own data, and we'll show you that in a minute. If you've got a file of LinkedIn URLs, you can enroll those people into campaigns as well. We'll show you that in a moment. But basically, use as many of the LinkedIn search criteria to build best possible lists that you can. It's really important that you do that, because you want your profiles to match your campaign content. If those two aren't coming together, then the magic won't happen, unfortunately. So that's something to consider there as well. Right, so what we'll do now is we'll go on to the next slide. Yeah, okay, so we're going to go talk about now the funnel. How do we then monitor the campaign? We're going to do that in the funnel. We can show how many people have been invited, how many people have been messaged, etc., etc. And then we can also then show you the progress of that campaign. So I'm going to start sharing my screen again whilst I'm still running. Let's get back. There we go. Hopefully my screen has come through again. Yeah, it appears to have. We can see now Dux-Soup's already on the next page. It's gathered some more information here, and it's starting to run through this list and enrolling people into this campaign. So this has just been running in the background while I've been nattering on. And what we want to do then, of course, now is check, okay, what's actually happening under the hood. And it appears like my mouse just disappeared. So find it there. There we go. Right. That's typical. The battery of your mouse runs out during the webinar. That's awesome, isn't it? Right, so we're going to go back to our Dux-Dash. We're back in our Dux-Dash now, and we're going to check to see what's actually happening under the hood. Over on the left-hand side, we can go to our funnel flow. Stay there because we go in there. We can go into our funnel flow, and now we can check the progress of each of our campaigns. And we can see here there's our Getting Started webinar for growth hackers that we're looking at here. And we can see here straight away 14 people have been enrolled into my campaign. Now, I've only been running this one very briefly, so I don't have a huge amount of information here yet. But what we'll see in the coming minutes is we'll see this number creep up there. That's up to 21 now. So Dux-Soup is busy going through that list, and I think I put 150 on there. I don't see how long my list was, but it's going to enroll a bunch of people in there anyway. Now, down below, under my funnel then, we can see here the people that have gone into my campaign. And we can see them here listed alphabetically by surname. All of these people have gone into my campaign. And Dux-Soup is now starting to process these action lists. Now, what we're actually doing here is just queuing up commands for Dux-Soup to perform. So if I go over to the left-hand side, and if you want to have a look at this, you can have a look here at your queued activity. You can go and check your campaign. There we are. We can see here, these are the actions that have been queued up. I've got some likes. I've got some enrollment actions where Dux-Soup needs to get some more information. But essentially what we're doing here is we're just queuing up commands for Dux-Soup to perform, and they will get performed here locally in our browser. One very important factor when you're using Dux-Soup Turbo, everything you queue up gets performed locally on your local device. That means that you need to keep your device on and your browser active, your device active, your browser open, in order for Dux-Soup to open and close tabs and to actually mimic the clicks of the mouse on the screen. We here have the queued activity. As Dux-Soup starts to perform actions, we'll then see here activity log, we'll see what's being performed, etc., etc. And what we can see there straight away, up at the top of our screen there, a profile just got opened. That is Dux-Soup performing one of my commands straight away. So we can see there, it's actually opened this profile here, and it's enrolling that gentleman into my campaign. It needed some more data to be able to do that. Fantastic. So we can see things are working properly there. If we go back to our drip campaign, or we can go back to the funnel flow, we should see here now a bunch more people have gone in here. It's up to 34 now, and it's creeping up all the time. Now, over the course of the coming days, we will start to see invites going out. Once invites are out there, we'll start to see people hopefully accepting my campaign request, and they'll start to appear here. And then follow-up messages will go out accordingly. And as responses come in, they will appear here. Now, this is something where perhaps I need to just grab one of our, actually I might be able to do this here. There's a good opportunity to go to our support pages. Here on our support pages, if we now have a look at the funnel flow, there we go, where is it? How to interpret funnel flow data. This is an article here from our support pages, which explains how a populated funnel flow would look. So you can see here, for example, enrolled, invited, accepted, etc., etc., etc. These different phases. As people respond, you will actually be able to see the number go up here, and you will see what people have responded with. So I did have an example here. Let's go back on. There we go. So we can see here, and it's not let me zoom in a little bit. So if somebody responds to you, you will see here, when you click on responded, you'll see what they've responded with, and these buttons here, continue, qualify in, message, etc., etc., all those options become visible and available. Because this is a brand new campaign, this particular one, I don't have any data here, but later on, if I pressed responded here, I would actually see what people have responded with, and then I can determine what happens next with these buttons here. These aren't all available yet because these people haven't accepted my invite yet. But that's essentially how we can then monitor the progress and decide what happens next. Now, while I'm on this page, I'll show you a couple of other enrollment options that we have. We have the ability to enroll from a file. So I can, if I've got a CSV file containing LinkedIn URLs, I can press this button here and I can go and find a file. So say I take this LinkedIn list of URLs, there we go, I've got 52 URLs there, I can enroll those people into my campaign. I can enroll from the clipboard. So here, I can just copy and paste individual LinkedIn URLs into here. And also I can enroll from a search URL. So if I've got a search URL, I can just copy and paste that in there, select my campaign, how many do I want to put in there, and Dux-Soup will then handle that accordingly. So we've got all sorts of different ways of enrolling people into our campaigns. Hopefully intuitive, simple, and fingers crossed, nice and user-friendly as well. As Dux-Soup is visiting profiles, it's also gathering data. It's gathering information. So we can see here on the left-hand side, I've got a button here that says contact. Every profile that Dux-Soup is visiting, it is gathering the publicly visible data for those profiles. And we can see here per campaign, per connection level, and per date range, we can see data here, which I can then export to a CSV file. As well as that, if I had been having conversations with these people, I would be able to open the conversation and even reply to those conversations from this environment as well, under the contact button. So that's something that Dux-Soup's doing all the time, gathering data. Now, that leads me on to the final thing that I want to touch on today. Now something working, there we go, is integrations. Now, I'll show you the slide in a little bit bigger in a minute, but essentially our integrations are all two-way integrations. And you can see here on the left-hand side, we've got our App Connections button. If we click on the App Connections button here, we can add our accounts based upon whatever we want to any of these platforms here. All of these integrations are available to Dux-Soup Turbo and Cloud users, no extra cost from a Dux-Soup perspective. And they are all two-way integrations. So Slack and Teams, brilliant for collaboration, brilliant for being able to monitor message exchanges. You can even reply from in those platforms as well, so you don't have to constantly go back into your Dux-Soup LinkedIn environment to handle messages as they come in. All of these other CRMs, we've got all of those two-way integrations available, and that's all detailed in all of the technical documentation is detailed under our support pages. So again, I'm going to pop to our support portal here. I'm going to go back up to the top. We'll go to the support home section here, and we'll see here under the integration section here, these are all the different platforms. And what you'll notice here, we've also got full make and Zapier integrations as well. For anybody who's familiar with no-code platforms, you've got a platform you want to integrate and they aren't listed amongst this lot here, you can do it via Zapier or Make. It's almost certain you can, because they integrate with literally tens of thousands of different platforms that are out there. So yeah, basically you'd be logged onto your HubSpot account, your Pipedrive, your Salesforce, whatever it might be, whatever platform it might be. You would then follow the instructions that we have there on our integrations page, and then you can configure things to bring across the data that you want. Now, I'm going to stop sharing my screen there for a minute. Now, hopefully people are getting some questions in whilst I've been talking. Yeah, so our integrations, they're all two-way. You can trigger action from your CRM, from within your collaboration platform, et cetera, et cetera. We are constantly adding to this portfolio as well. So our most recent addition here was Go High Level, based upon customer demand and requests, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, if there's a platform that you want, you can always message us and find out if it's on our radar, et cetera, et cetera. Just back to a few basics here with regards LinkedIn and with regards how you can get the most out of doing things. Some best practice tips here. Do your research. Match your targets to your messaging, to your campaigns. Engage with people. Don't be afraid to visit, like things, like comment, like posts, etc., etc. The more effort you put in up front, the better the results you're going to get in the long term. One thing that I've not mentioned here, and you can look it up on our support pages, you can also get Dux-Soup to auto withdraw invites, which is really useful. One of the things that LinkedIn does look at is your acceptance rates. So if your list of outstanding invites gets too long, perhaps, then you will find that LinkedIn may throttle how much you can do. I mean, I could do an entire, and we have done indeed, we've done an entire webinar on account safety in the past, and I'm sure there's going to be a few questions coming up around that. But yeah, use the auto cancelling or auto withdrawal feature of invites that we've got as well. The last point there is really important. The more effort you put into building your lists, the better results you will achieve. I believe that somewhere amongst the resources, there's a link to where you can download the free trial, but please make the most of the documentation that we provide to make the most out of it and ensure that you are making the most of those 2 weeks if you're looking to make to use the free trial and explore all the features. I've probably talked for long enough now. Noticed it's nearly 45 minutes. Adam, do we have any questions that have appeared that I might be able to furnish some answers? Fantastic.
Absolutely, Giles. So I think the first couple of comments I'm going to go in order in which they received. People's challenges talked about how to get an appropriate number of qualified leads on LinkedIn and how to get a predictable number of leads each week. So that came from Rodney and Guy. Hopefully, Giles has covered that really in terms of once your campaigns are set up, they run in a consistent way. And if they're set up with good targeting, good messaging, as Giles has explained, then generally speaking, you will see outcomes out the other end. The next question...
Adam, just to let you know, your microphone sometimes drifts in and out a little bit, so just try and keep it closer. One of the, I think what Adam says there is consistency is absolutely key here. Just if you have a bad week, don't think, oh, that's the end of the world, you need to tear everything up and try again. You can do A/B testing. We've got great articles about A/B testing with different approaches. Some people swear by having a message in their connection request. Some people say a blank connection request works much better for them because it creates curiosity for people. People are more likely to visit your profile. But I saw a couple of weeks ago, was it a week or two ago, that we had a very quiet week, and then I realized, oh yeah, here in the Netherlands it's carnival, nobody was working. So you do see these ebbs and flows of people's behavior on the platform, on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is, going back to the very beginning of the webinar, it's just a phenomenal resource. It's a huge database of potential prospects. One thing I've not touched upon is, even if you're not getting lots of new connections, don't be afraid to nurture your existing ones. People forget about that. Maybe we'll talk about that if there's more information coming through the questions. Sorry, Adam, I was interrupting you.
It's okay, and I think that point you made around engaging with people's profiles and absolutely key. And just on the question about, do I have a connection note or not? I think the best answer to that is it depends, and you should test it. Because what works for some people doesn't work for others. I think a lot depends on how well known you are, for example, in the industry, how active you are on the platform. But definitely test that. And something else you mentioned a little while ago, Giles, the other things you can do, liking people's posts. So one of our customers said that the auto-like feature that we've recently introduced into Dux-Soup can boost response rates by up to 15%. He equated that to an extra 2 to 3 meetings generated per campaign. So just a very simple addition to the Dux product is having quite a big impact. So next question, Giles, how easy is it, this is from Ian Wheaton, how easy is it to set up and use multiple LinkedIn profiles with Dux-Soup?
Okay, great question, Ian. Thank you for that. Very straightforward. It depends, of course, on what you're trying to achieve, and of course, we would only recommend ever using genuine profiles. I couldn't recommend any other approach because LinkedIn are, I think, it's part of their philosophy is they are very much clamping down on fake profiles, and rightly so. You know, we don't want bots talking to bots, do we? There's no value in that. But yeah, to run multiple accounts, if you're using Dux-Soup Turbo, essentially you can basically just create a new Chrome account per LinkedIn account. Think of that ecosystem. One Chrome account, so they've got my for example, my Dux-Soup email address is one of my Chrome accounts. That's one account that I use, and within that environment, I'm only ever logged onto a single LinkedIn account. Then maybe I've got another email address that I use for another Chrome account, and on that one, I've got another LinkedIn account running there. So you can run these in parallel. We've got users, for example, who've been maybe using Dux-Soup for years, and because they maybe not even using their local laptop anymore, they've maybe got an old device perhaps, and they're running 3, 4, 5 Chrome accounts all in parallel on that device. So Dux-Soup is always on and running in those environments. There are lots of ways of achieving this, and we do have other solutions available through our cloud edition. So you can also read about that within our blog posts. But yeah, very, very simple. Just basically think one LinkedIn account per Chrome account and just build up from there.
And a related question from Jeffrey. I'm starting 2 completely separate businesses in unrelated fields. Can I use the same Dux-Soup account to send campaigns to both separate target audiences?
Absolutely, yeah. Have 2 different separate accounts. So, sorry, no, have one LinkedIn account. Always have one LinkedIn account. Basically, that's you, and you have maybe 2 separate target audiences there. Build a search result for one, and then create 1 or 2 campaigns for that one. Different approaches. Maybe you've got maybe an A/B testing there, and then you've got maybe another campaign for another. You can run as many campaigns in parallel as you want. No problems at all. When it comes to your daily limits will just be spread over. Your daily action limits will be spread over however many campaigns you've got active. But absolutely, we've got many users who have, should we say, fingers in several pies. Maybe they've got some side hustles, other bits and pieces, a couple of different businesses, lots of consultants working towards different industries. Yeah, just find your target audience, enroll them into the appropriate campaign for that particular audience, and let it run. Let it do its thing.
Great. So next question is from Christian. I have Sales Navigator. When running a campaign, is there a reason to select Sales Navigator versus regular LinkedIn? What are the differences or benefits?
There's only if you're using InMails, to be absolutely honest. If you're using InMails, then you would want to run that in LinkedIn, in Sales Navigator, because that's where your credits sit. A lot of people, because of the way that LinkedIn works with regards mailboxes, of course, if you selected Sales Navigator, so just say you've got just a regular LinkedIn connection request and Sales Navigator, you're running in Sales Navigator. If your target has Sales Navigator, then they may accept your connection request in Sales Navigator, and they may respond in Sales Navigator. So you end up with two mailboxes to manage, which can be sometimes a bit tricky. Now, Dux-Soup can cope with that. It checks all of those environments for responses that are coming in. Personally, I do as much as possible in regular LinkedIn, unless I'm using in-mails, to be honest. I mean, I would use Sales Navigator to do my searches, absolutely, build my lists, because you've got so many more filters there. But unless you're using in-mails, I would recommend just using it under regular LinkedIn.
Great answer, Charles. Thank you. Now, the next couple of questions relate to CRMs, and I know you touched on it in the presentation, so hopefully we've answered this one specifically. But can Dux-Soup work with audience lists created elsewhere, such as a CRM or a spreadsheet?
Absolutely. As long as you've got the URLs of the prospects, absolutely. That's essentially all you need, and I showed you that towards the end there, the different enrollment options, enroll from a file, etc., etc. If you're making use of the integrations, you need to make sure that the LinkedIn URL is in a certain field for Dux-Soup to be able to pick up, and you can read about that under the technical documentation. But yeah, essentially, yeah, you can enroll people from your CRM, you can enroll people from a file, as long as you've got those individual LinkedIn URLs. Now, there is a cheeky way to find URLs as well. And if I have time towards the end of the webinar, I might try and find the link for that. It's basically a way to be able to find LinkedIn URLs using a sort of a Google Sheet formula. It's something that we use quite a lot, be able to find people's URLs. And I know it's something that my colleague Scott shared with me several years ago, and we still make very good use of it. It's just a super handy way. If you don't have ready access to LinkedIn URLs and you want to find a way, remember, there are many other tools out there to help you find these things as well. So do explore the landscape of this particular industry, because there are some tools out there that do make finding LinkedIn URLs quite good.
It's interesting because the second part of that question was, I was planning on using AI to create highly accurate targeted lists of LinkedIn profiles, but only at companies where they have a specific gap for our services.
Yeah. All sorts of different tools out there. Absolutely. I mean, really, every day there's something else appearing on the market, which opens up different possibilities to different people, and depends on your comfort level with regards using these platforms. But they're usually pretty intuitive. So yeah, absolutely.
So next question, I think, touches on the Turbo and Cloud. So James has asked, once enrolled, can you close the browser, or do you have to leave it running permanently over a number of days or weeks?
If you've got Turbo, you have to keep your browser open. If you minimize your browser or close your browser, then Dux-Soup cannot mimic the clicks of the mouse on the screen. So yeah, unfortunately, well, that's just how Dux-Soup Turbo has always run. Dux-Soup Turbo, I think, was launched something like 8 years ago. It's always run like that. The alternative, of course, if you want an always-on solution, or a solution that's not reliant upon your local hardware, then the Dux-Soup Cloud solution may be of interest to you.
So Charles, just to clarify that for my own purposes, so when you talk about the browser window being open and then minimized, so if I have Chrome up and running with Dux-Soup running, and then I just switch to another program like my word processing or spreadsheet, Dux-Soup will carry on. It's only if I minimize the browser window that it stops.
Spot on, Adam. Yeah, absolutely. Brilliantly explained. Thank you. It can be in the background. Chrome can be in the background. It will run. But if you minimize, and you can make the window small as well. Just nothing more sinister than that. You can make it quite small in the corner, etc., etc. It can be behind things, or even if you drag it to a different desktop if you've got that opportunity. But yeah, if you minimize the browser window, then Dux-Soup cannot mimic the clicks of the mouse on the screen. I
think this question comes up quite a bit when I'm talking to users, and really it depends on personal preferences. Some people are happy, generally speaking, I'm on my laptop usually between the hours of about 8 in the morning and 6 p.m. So when I close my laptop, it doesn't really matter, because I want my outreach to be going out during UK business hours. But if I was, for example, I don't know, I'm based in the UK but targeting someone in the US, I might want to have it running in the cloud, so that it's running natively with along coast or west coast timing if I was targeting someone in South America, for example.
Yeah, and there's also instances where people travel a lot and perhaps they don't have the ability to have their device on much, and though you then would run the cloud. Now the thing to remember as well with Turbo and Cloud is, well, with all the versions of Dux-Soup, there's also a planner function. So even if you are running cloud, you have to be available 24/7. You can select the hours that Dux-Soup is active, so you have that level of control which remains within the platform.
I think this is no better illustrated than there is a case study from a company called Ideas First on the Dux-Soup website. And one of our users basically decided to go on a trip of a lifetime to New Zealand. And before he went away, he enrolled, I can't remember the exact number, something like 4,000 or 5,000 contacts into a couple of different campaigns in the cloud. And he just left the campaigns running and he went off and had a brilliant time in New Zealand. And essentially, when he got back and opened up his laptop again, he had, I think, 16 meeting requests and a ton of great awareness. So, if you want to see the difference that's running in the cloud can make, have a look at the Ideas First case study on the website. And then the last question from the Q&A that I can see is, how crucial is it to actually send connection requests? I thought if you had a LinkedIn Pro account, you could message people without being connected, or does it go back to limits?
That if you've got a LinkedIn Pro account, a professional account, or some sort of premium account, then you would have the ability to in-mail. In-mails are a premium messaging service within LinkedIn, and you have so many credits that you can use. So yeah, have a read about in-mails and familiarize yourself with that based upon whichever plan you're on, because there are all sorts of different LinkedIn plans. There are, there's Premium Career, there's Business Premium, there's Business Pro, there's Sales Navigator Team, there's Sales Navigator, there's all sorts. There's also, and they all have different levels of in-mail credits. So be aware of that. Yes, if you're paying LinkedIn money, you can message people without being connected to them, absolutely. But there will still be some limits in place. Connection requests, of course, you can do that, and there will be daily limits in place. But premium messaging in mails, there are monthly limits and monthly credits there. So do have a little bit of a dig around that, and you can familiarise yourself with that.
Omkar has asked the question: how do we access the free trial?
Go to the Chrome Web Store or the Dux-Soup website, or I believe there's a link in the resources section, and you can go there and just download it, and the Chrome extension will appear. You'll get 2 weeks for free, and feel free to reach out to any of our support team, which I think we'll come on to in a moment on the slides, if you've got questions. One thing I'm going to mention actually before we go on to that is we do have the ability, we do have the function of being able to provide consultancy services to anybody. So if you're looking to refine or build your lead generation activities on LinkedIn with Dux-Soup, we have the opportunity for booking time with either myself or my colleague Scott to help you build campaigns, to find the people within your industry, whatever it might be, your target audience. We have options here. We've got paid sessions which you can book via our website. We do also provide free support services. So if you are stuck with issues, you see the email address there at the bottom of the page, info@dux-soup.com, or go to our support page, which I flashed up earlier, support.dux-soup.com, and you can find there a live chat option with our amazing support team who are on hand to answer your every Dux-Soup question. I'll now go to the next page.
We do have another question, Giles.
Oh yeah, go.
And just on that, if you look at G2 or Trustpilot, the one common factor that gets called out in almost every single one of our reviews is how good our support team is. We're not just there to answer, oh, how do I do this? I've forgotten this bit isn't working. They're genuinely there because they care about helping people to get the most out of it. And no question is too small or too big that they won't try and help you with. Next question from Ian. I think I saw that the platform allows me to manage messages between my connections and people I've engaged with. Is that correct?
Manage messages between people. Can you say that again, please, Adam?
So Ian, you might need to clarify if we haven't answered your specific question. I think I saw that the platform allows me to manage messages between my connections and people I've engaged with. Is that correct?
You have possibly he's referring there to the contacts section where you can actually see the messages that have come in and engage that from there. But if you want to email either our support team, Ian or myself, mine's Giles at dux-soup.com. You should be able to find me that way. Then we can look more into the specifics around that question, because I want to make sure we do answer it correctly.
Great stuff. Did you want to move on to the next slide?
There you go. We're on the next slide.
So we always like to give a bit of a plug to the next webinar that's coming up. And this fresh-faced young gentleman that you see in front of you is a guy called Ben Scott. He's someone I've interviewed, but also met in person at an event. Ben is he's in his 20s. He's a really interesting character. And you really should follow him look him up and follow him on LinkedIn, because he's one of these people who just cuts through all of the noise and all the BS around what people promise you, what experts say you should do around using LinkedIn automation. And he's kindly agreed to share his story on a fairly in-depth webinar on the 10th of March. The booking link should be on the On24 platform page in front of you. If you can't see it there, you can always see it at the top of the Dux-Soup website. But he's basically going to talk you through the 4-step LinkedIn strategy that basically starts generating results in 7 days. Ben was kind enough to share his pitch deck with me. So this is the deck he uses when he's presenting to people. And some of his use case examples for the speed with which he's delivering leads and the speed with which his clients turn from the day he starts a campaign to when they actually close business is so quick. Sometimes it's in under 30 days. He's done it quicker than that. But he's someone who, I think, he's one of these young digital natives. He absolutely gets all this stuff. It's really second nature to him, and he's got a terrific amount of experience that he's willing to share with you. I don't know if we've got a bit more detail on the presentation on the next slide. So I just want to cover a bit more about sort of Ben. So he runs an agency called Scale Easy, which is one of these done-for-you agencies. So if you love the idea of using LinkedIn automation, you think, I just don't have the time or the expertise, you can outsource it to people like Ben, who can run the campaigns for you. His strategy and some of the information he shared for us to be able to share with you is he's getting something like a 45% acceptance rates, and he's generating sales points within a week of starting from launching a campaign. And he's actually earning his clients multi-6 figures in annual recurring revenue, which is, well, I mean, we'd all love results like that from our campaigns, wouldn't we? So Ben will be talking about the exact 4-step campaign flow that he uses for his clients, how to write messages that actually convert. So he's not interested in views or impressions, and Ben is actually quite ruthless, I think, whenever I talk to him, because he's just really focused on outcomes. How can I get into conversations and convert those conversations into leads for my customers? And he'll talk through some of those, the top hidden secrets that people don't want to tell you about LinkedIn. Is how do you actually use it to generate sales? Not impressions, not likes, not number of connection requests. It's generating sales, because that's fundamentally what we all really want from those outcomes. If you think about those outcomes I talked about right back at the start of the presentation, it could be demo requests, it could be downloads, but fundamentally we want to get a step closer to having a closed sale. And he's going to give you some, Ben has done all of this stuff hands-on by himself, so he's made all of the mistakes that people go through during their learning curve. So he's going to give you some examples of what kills conversion rates, so you don't fall into those traps. As I said, that's on the 10th of March. And then on the 24th of March, I don't have a slide for this, we do have the next in our, what we're calling our LinkedIn mastery sessions. So these are Oh, we do have a slide. 15 minutes.
We do have a slide. Here's one I prepared earlier, Adam.
Which is an introduction rather to Dux-Soup Cloud. So I think a few people are asking about the difference between Turbo and Cloud. How can I run campaigns where I can close my laptop, or how can I run it in the cloud infrastructure? That's just a really short, sharp 15-minute introduction session. So anyone who watches that really gets a good understanding of how to run their campaigns in the cloud. Now, the registration for that won't open until Ben's session is finished on the 10th, but you will always be able to access it by looking on our website after the 10th. At the top of the page, there's always a banner which has the links to the next webinar or mastery session in this case. So just checking, there are no further questions. Some great feedback from James. Thank you for your help. Really useful webinar. We'll look to trial it at some point. And thank you to our audience for joining us today. Don't forget, come back on March the 10th. I really like Ben. I love his posts on LinkedIn. He's the opposite of the people who, promise to reveal all and then only try and sell you something or spin you a lie about how you should do this, that, or the other. He shoots from the hip. I think if you watch this webinar, you'll get a really good and slightly different understanding from how we would position it. This is an actual, guy who's doing this every day. It's his day job to generate leads for his clients. So hopefully we'll see you back here on March the 10th. But Giles, anything else to add before we close?
No, not at all. Lovely to see some familiar names on the call, and yeah, I'm sure I'll speak to some of you in the coming weeks. Thanks everybody, and yeah, I'll speak to you probably in 4 weeks for the cloud session. Mastery
session, and I'm not sure if it'll be myself or Joe back hosting Ben on March the 10th. But as Giles mentioned earlier, if you do have any questions, please just drop us a line. We'll be more than happy to help. See you soon.
Thanks, bye.